Right. Hello, everybody. It's so good to be back. We've been off. We were gone last week, but it is great to be back this week. And we want to tell you we appreciate you coming and spending some time with us tonight. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, I'm going to do it early tonight. I'm going to do it early. Broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee, you're listening to Power Faith Radio. So thought I'd do that early tonight. So it's good to have y'all listening there tonight. The Georgia group has 31 with them, but they're waiting on another family. And they sent some messages. They really missed last week, and they really appreciate the teaching. And they did gain a lot of knowledge about Rosh Hashanah the week before last, Terry. So they said thank you for delivering that information. And as always, we appreciate you all listening through our two Facebook groups, B'nai Noach Fellowship, which is a private group, and A Simple Walk, which is a public group. Please comment, like, share it with all your social media platforms. We greatly appreciate it. Those of you that's joining us through YouTube, we thank you so much. Hey, while you're there, subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and share those videos with all your social media platform. Okay, Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll do the website and the email address towards the end. Is that okay?
Oh, you flip-flopping.
I'm flip-flopping, yeah.
Scotty, I think we ought to make that song I sent you, our theme song,
Yeah.
How's that go?
The Smoky Mountains, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Don't see.
Don't get the Smoky Mountain smoke in your eyes.
Yeah.
Or
you'll end up in Gatlinburg.
You'll end up, yeah. You'll end up in the Smoky Mountains.
And if you ever haven't been to the Smoky Mountains, you need to go. It's beautiful. The Smoky Mountains and the Cherokee National Forest. They've said the last several years it's the most visited national park in the United States. It's just something peaceful about it. Matter of fact, I think the North Carolina side is called the peaceful side of the Smokies.
It used to be Townsend, but not anymore.
Not anymore. I think it's more over toward Bryson City, North Carolina, in that area, which is absolutely beautiful.
Our temperature's changing here, and this morning it was 58 degrees.
We had a 55-day yesterday or this morning. Thought I was going to have to put a coat on. It's that time of year where you walk out with a sweater and come back in your swimming trunks in the afternoon because it's hot.
Yeah.
All righty. Greetings, everyone. And it is good to be back. It's also good sometimes to take a break, and got to sit and do some looking at some things myself while we were off, and which I'll bring up here in just a little bit later as we get into our lesson tonight. But thank you for joining us again. Thank you for being faithful to coming to our class. Appreciate everyone that comes again. Zoom room is open for anyone who wants to come in. The link is there in the Facebook groups, Simple Walk and B'nai Noach Fellowship. They're there, and also in the Australia, New Zealand. The links are there as well if you want to come in. That's where Chrissy and Ronald are our Australian buddies there. Yeah, you're welcome to come in the Zoom room. Glad you're here. We're going to continue in. We're on part, it's interesting. We're on part 9 of our book read, and we're just in the second chapter, page 29, where we'll be picking back up where we left off. Actually 2 weeks ago, because we kind of took a break last week and talked about Rosh Hashanah a little bit. But I'm glad you're back. Scotty, anything from any announcements other than we need to make? Anything going in news?
No, I think we're doing good. Let's see. I was trying to see what I was trying to read the comments there at the same time. No, everything's good, Terry. Do you want to greet everybody that's in the room tonight?
All righty. Yeah. Of course, we've got Scotty in our engine room, which he had to beam away for an away mission for a while. We seen that he didn't have his red shirt on, so he was able to return. Only trekkers will understand that. All right. And of course, Ronald, like I said, and Bob and Veronica. We got Amuela here tonight, and Wendell. and Chrissy, and we got Annie, Scotty's better half, and we have Chris Bell with us again tonight. Thank you all for joining us here in the Zoom room. And Scotty, are you ready?
I am, and while I'm doing this, I think, Amuel, did that come from YouTube or one of the Facebook groups?
You muted Amuela.
Yeah. I don't know. She might not have heard me. Read the comment that Amuela brought over from
She said it was from Facebook.
Facebook. Okay.
I'll tell you what. I'll probably let me deal with that as we get toward the end of this, because that is a very important question, because it can cause confusion.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll Scotty, help me remember that, because I know as the chat will move up line, it'll get out of my view. So
okay,
we can remember. See, was that Amuela that brought that in?
It was Amuela.
If you can help remember, maybe pull it back down into the view toward the end of class. Okay.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, again, we want to thank everybody who has participated in our Tzedakah time by sending us names, and we greatly appreciate it. We love it when people contact us and tell us a little bit behind the scenes of the names that they send. So I meant to send Ronald some of these names, and Ronald, I didn't get to do that. So you'll have to bear with me struggling across these names. Names that are of other origin than towns in Tennessee. So you'll have to bear with me on that. So as always, as we start our time of charity, our Tzedakah Vox tonight, we always want to remember Terry and I's main teacher, and that's Pesach and Shira Sherbo, and we give tzedakah for them tonight. Also, we're giving tzedakah tonight for Robin Wade, and also giving tzedakah tonight for Evelyn Seal, and giving tzedakah tonight. This is one of those names. I'm gonna circle it and come back to it. That way I'll be more calmer after I reach more names. Clifford Hool. We're giving tzedakah tonight for Clifford Hool. He was in a rehab center for a while, and they thought they was going to have to put him in a nursing home. And I got to go out and visit him the week before we left for vacation, and he is they said he wasn't going to get up and walk anymore, and he's up walking through the house. So we appreciate he's walking with a walker, but he's walking nonetheless. So all right. So we also want to give tzedakah tonight for William and Tina Lyons, and also tonight on our tzedakah list is Wendy Shepard. Chrissy, have you heard anything about Wendy? Have you heard any news? Anything at all?
Nothing startling at this stage, no.
Okay.
No, I'm not aware of any significant changes. Ron might be.
No, I haven't had any contact lately with her.
Okay.
She's been quiet online as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
All right. We'll continue to give tzedakah for Wendy Shepard.
Yeah.
And also on our list tonight is Terry's father, Philip Hayes. Terry, how is your father doing? Just for an update there.
He's home. Really don't know how to really just say it, other than don't know how to say it. Like I said, they removed 100% of his colon, but he also has stage 4 prostate cancer. So I'm just going to put it with that.
Well, we're gonna continue to give tzedakah on that need. So while you were saying that, Terry, I looked down and that name came to my mind how to say it. So Uriah Wolf. We're giving tzedakah tonight for Uriah Wolf. We're going to continue. I'm going to ask everybody to continue praying for Terry's dad too. That his name is Philip. Also, Warwick Marshall. How's Warwick doing since his surgery there? Any one of you two want to give us an update, Ronald or Chrissy?
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Well, I would like to visit his surgeon and have something done to myself, because whatever they did to Warwick, he is like a Mexican jumping bean. He is out there. So I think he's had some sort of rejuvenation, and I'm lining up for the same treatment.
Wow. Okay.
Rufus
That
Newman.
is great news. Great news. We're going to continue to give tzedakah, but I think we're going to change this tzedakah to thankful tzedakah.
Thankfulness,
Yes. That gratitude goes a long way. Also tonight, somebody always sends tzedakah in for you, Amuela. This is your dollar going into the tzedakah box tonight. So that's from Amuela. If I can get it in here. And then also they do the same thing for Thomas Schaus. I haven't seen Thomas in so long. I about forgot how to say his name. Online. I see him from time to time. I talk to him about every day. And so let's just continue to pray for Thomas. And then also they include Veronica Port in on that tzedakah time. Let me get this in here. And then also tonight on our list is Ronald Dickman. Now, I was talking to Ronald a little bit, but Ronald, you want to give us an update about you?
Well, the intestinal pain, excruciating intestinal pain I've been suffering has abated over the last week, but I think it's due to removing a crucial medication that I need. So at the moment, it's the lesser of two evils because I've been pain-free and I'm starting to be able to eat a bit better.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to pray for you, Ronald. Was you through? I'm sorry, Ronald.
No, I was just going to say I need to have a discussion with the doctor on where we go from here with that, because I really can't stay off the medication I've removed, and it could be just coincidental that things have got back into place a bit better, or it might be the fact that I removed that medication. Not sure yet.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to have you on our tzedakah list, Ronald. And then also we're giving thankful gratitude tzedakah for Mary Parsons. And I'm sorry to say it's about time for Mary to be shoveling snow up there in New York, Wendell. So
don't push it now.
Okay.
Wendell, Wendell,
I mean,
if he continues to bring up the snow shovel through winter, I think Mary will come to Townsend and hit him over the head with it.
well, now listen, a few years back, when Baruch Hashem, Mary came through her trying time, as well as Wendell being there for her. I'll never forget the time when I said, how is Mary doing, Wendell? And he said, well, she's doing pretty good. She's outside shoveling snow. Yeah. And so I have never forgotten that. I mean, that's been a couple of years ago. So I just want to continue to give thankfulness to the Creator for that. Okay. On our blessed memory tonight, we've got three. And so our first one is Roger Givens. We're giving blessed memory tzedakah in the merit of Roger Givens. Also, Leah Hadassah. Leah Hadassah. We're giving blessed memory tzedakah there. And then also I got this message, Rabbi Menachem Bruin Zil left this walk, and we're giving in the merit of the rabbi. Okay, if you will help me, we are going to pray tonight. Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you about ready to get started tonight? I'm going to put you in speaker view. And
how's my mic? Is it doing okay?
Sounds good. Sounds
You know,
good.
it's about time to change the batteries in this board. I just keep forgetting it. And every time I get in there on Wednesday night, hope this thing turns on.
Yeah, I had to change mine the day I got back. I was going to talk to somebody, and I turned it on, and it went.
Yeah.
So it's so all right, Terry,
All right.
it's yours.
Again, greetings everyone. And since, Scotty keeps mentioning this, Townsend, howdy y'all. Give y'all a good Tennessee welcome. Howdy y'all. Glad y'all here. Of course, we got some Georgia people here too, so they've got that lingo down too. Probably a little better than we do. We got the mountainside. I don't think they're on the mountains down there. I think they're on the other side of the mountains. All righty. Now, greetings everyone. Tonight we're going to pick back up in chapter 2, page 29 in our book, The Seven Gates of Righteous Knowledge, Spiritual Knowledge, and Faith for Righteous Gentiles. Before
chapter 3, not chapter 2.
Chapter 3?
Yeah.
I did get into 3 last time. Sorry about that. That is chapter 3.
It's not I correct you.
There you go. Hey, that's why you're Yeoman Asher. You got to keep the captain straight. And the engineer in the engineering room to keep us all going. I get your mama of the ship. How's that? All righty. Last week we talked about Rosh Hashanah. I just want to say a little bit something here that's been on my mind since our class the last time. I want to apologize. I did get a little bit of strong last time in a certain area. And I guess because it touched something, I want to explain probably the reason why that happened. Had the discussion come up about that, there are some religious leaders that tell, modern people they don't need to examine themselves. And I had to go in and show that that's, anytime a religious leader tells you something opposite of what the Creator has told us, kind of strikes a nerve with me because, see, I was raised in one of these denominations. I was born and raised 4th generation of my family in this particular denomination, which does not exist anymore. And we were told what to believe and how to believe. We were given what to study. We weren't permitted to go out and get our own study materials. We had to study what our particular group put out. And it wasn't until I was away from that, not voluntarily, because it left me. That's all I knew. And when my spiritual world got yanked out from under me and I had to start studying on my own without being fed my religion, I learned real quick how dangerous when I found things that was in the scripture that was completely opposite on some things that I was taught and I was told this is what it was. And I guess when I hear someone say that a spiritual leader says, well, we don't have to evaluate ourselves anymore because of, faith or because of this, but when you go to, especially, in Genesis, it's funny. It's the first book in the beginning. Where we should start at. That's the starting line. And right there in the beginning, the Creator says, if you improve yourself, so I got a little bit, probably a little strong last week on that subject because it kind of touched a nerve because of my past of being told what to believe and how to believe. And you need to study for yourself, even in our classes when I'm going through this stuff, you need to, pick up the Torah and look. If I give a scripture, you need to go look at it, make sure it's in context, read what's above it, what's below it, what's around it, and everything else. Don't just let someone tell you what to believe and how to believe. You need to examine. And I just kind of wanted to go over that here before we get started. Now, as we get started, you got to do what? No, I'm just kidding. But we're continuing in the subject of divine providence. And we'll bring out a few things this evening for us, maybe morning or afternoon where you're at. As you study this, there's other aspects of your walk with the Creator that I want to talk about a little bit here when we get a few paragraphs in, because you're gonna see it. This is an underlining factors of what's being said here. On page 29, starting in the 2nd chapter, there where there's a gap, between the last chapter where we left off. It says, additionally, when a person contemplates and perceives the continuous divine providence which surrounds him, this will bring him to have trust. For when he knows that he is not the one in control of his life, but rather it is God who created him from the outset and guides him constantly to every place, then he knows that surely the Creator has a purpose for him being in the place and the situation he is in. And if an upright person does not yet understand what the purpose is, nevertheless, he trusts in God that the outcome will be for the best. This is really so important. This is, as I was going back over this again, another time, this time the word jumped out. When a person contemplates, it is so easy. It is so easy because there's so much to learn, so much to study. And sometimes we got to slow down and stop and meditate and contemplate on what we already know, what we've learned, and even have discussions with the Creator. Because going over this has kind of really been a really good refresher for me, because for years, like I said, I'd studied for 7 years to join the Jewish people, until the Creator showed me that wasn't to be my path. And I've studied like I said in the past, the Breslov teachings, which I absolutely love the Rabbi Nachman of Breslov's teachings through Rabbi Arush, Breslov Israel, because they talk a lot about Emunah, and they talk a lot about this divine providence. And at one time, when I was in those particular studies, when I was in that part of my path, there wasn't a day that went by that my wife and I didn't even discuss the issue of divine providence, things going on in our life, it was constantly divine providence. And our walk with the Creator was at such a height during that time, because again, a day didn't go by, a situation didn't happen that we didn't bring it around and discuss sometime that day the divine providence of the Creator. And so when I saw this, as I was looking and going back over this to prepare for tonight, it says, and additionally, when a person contemplates and perceives the continuous divine providence, this doesn't mean just tonight. We're reading this tonight. This means when a person contemplates and perceives, this is something we need to do this on a continual basis to keep this fresh in our lives and fresh with our walk with the Creator, to contemplate, to ponder, to meditate, and then perceive this divine providence that surrounds us every day. There's I just thought of this, so I don't have the passage. It's in Psalms where King David says he places the Creator before him, daily. He keeps the Creator in front of him daily. Matter of fact, excuse me, I had another one just come to my mind. I will read this one. Again, from my favorite Psalm. This is one I love. Our Jewish brothers and sisters pray this Psalm 3 times a day. Move my bookmarks. I know where it's at here, though. Psalms 145 says, it's a psalm of praise of David. It says, I will exalt you, my God, the King, and I will bless your name forever and ever. Every day I will bless you and praise your name forever and ever. I've always, I love that where he says every day, I will bless you. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Ashrei Hayom. Ashrei Hayom. That I'll praise you every day. That I'll praise you every day. Asher Hayom. He will praise. I will praise you. That's what it means. Ashrei means it means to praise. Actually, this psalm is called the Ashrei, in the Ashrei prayer that for Jewish brothers and sisters. But I will bless your name every day. I will bless your name. So to be able to bless the Creator's name every day, I've often thought and meditated on that. How do we bless His name every day? We bless His name every day by walking in His paths, the way what we've been teaching here on the 7 categorical, commands that He wants mankind. But not only that, but by contemplating and perceiving His divine presence on a daily basis is blessing and praising His name every day. And so this is just a good practice. It's sometimes it's hard to do when we got lives, to live, work, everybody works different weird hours and different jobs. Maybe you're retired, you got kids and infants. And sometimes it's hard when life just kind of throws the stop sign up and wants to keep you away from these things. But even at that, say you're a young mother or father, you got an infant that keeps you up all night. You can sit there, that infant in your arms and sleeping and contemplate the divine providence of God by just looking at the face of that infant. So there's so much we can do. It just sometimes life wants us to forget. And just like with me, I'm studying all the time. I'm reading, studying subject after subject. And sometimes I forget to sit and contemplate the divine providence that surrounds me. And it's just something I really want to encourage people to try to implement this somehow in your life, is to contemplate the divine providence. It just, that resonated with me when I was studying this week for this. But it says, and if an upright person does not yet understand what the purpose is, sometimes when something's going on and you're asking the Creator why, sometimes He doesn't give you that answer just yet. Sometimes He won't give it to you until it comes to your children. We've studied that in the past. It's for a future time. But you trust in God and His outcome. When I was looking at that, another passage come to my mind. It says, for when he knows that he is not the one that controls his life, but rather God, that it is God. King Solomon taught us about this in Proverbs chapter 16. Sorry, I didn't get you these, because these was things that were coming to me this afternoon when I got home and was going back over things again that came to my mind. But Proverbs chapter 16 and in verse 8, it says, a man's heart will plot his way, but the Creator will set his steps aright. And the Torah sage is right here. It says, a man's heart will plot his way, but the Creator will set his steps. He says, like many other passages of Scripture within the Tanakh, this verse teaches us that man is not in control of his own destiny. And that, by the way, has nothing to do with being predestined and all that. That's a mess thing. This is totally different. We're not in totally control in our own destiny. He says he can only make plans. The ultimate outcome, however, is in the hands of the Creator. The prophet Jeremiah even proclaimed in Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 23, a man's path is not his own. So think about that. One of the things I love about the Torah teachers that I've studied under, and like I said, and Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who lived back in the 1700s, was really big on this, is don't be ashamed of your past, because your past is part of the reason where you are at today. And whatever brought you to where you are at today, don't be ashamed of that. There's reasons for that. So Jeremiah says a man's path is not his own. He says, accordingly, we must learn to place our trust in the Creator and fervently pray that he sets us on the path of success so that we may see our plans reach fruition. And I experienced that. I experienced that we make our plans, but the Creator guides our steps. And that's the reason why I'm here tonight, is because one of the lessons I learned is we plan our way and we go to make a step in that way. When we pick our foot up to go in that place, the Creator guides his steps. He puts your foot down where he wants it in that plan. My plan back in 2016 was to be in Northwest Houston, continuing my studies. That would eventually would have led me, and I was done making plans within 18 months to 2 years after that move to make Aliyah, to move to Savad, Israel. That was my plans. But when I put my house on the market to make that move, that's when it came to a stop. House was on the market, stuff was in storage, things was gotten rid of. We're making that move halfway across this country. We picked our foot up to do that, and the Creator says, but this is where I want your foot to land, right here, where I'm at tonight. Still somewhat on that journey, not completely in the journey to move to Israel, but to let Israel, as the prophets teach us, show me the way I'm supposed to be as a part of the non-Jewish creation of the Creator. But that didn't happen until I studied for 7 years at my house and going and visiting and learning and traveling so I could go learn. But it wasn't until we made the plan and we put that house on the market, we had a realtor lined up, we had contracts on the house that kept falling through. It wasn't until we made the step, we picked our foot up to move, then he put my foot where it was supposed to be. And that's divine providence. Go ahead, Chrissy.
Can I ask you to just repeat who said, what is it? Don't be ashamed of one's past. It has brought you to where you are today. Is that loose? Who said that?
Rebbe Nachman of Breslov taught on that, but also you'll hear that from Rabbi Lazer Brody, who's a Breslov rabbi. And it's in Rabbi Arush's also writings of his teachings of Rebbe Nachman's teachings. And yeah, your past was the footsteps and the pathway to where you're at today.
So I'd got it right. Don't be ashamed of one's past. It has brought you to where you are today. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've heard Rabbi Brody say that in his teachings. Do not be ashamed of your past.
What a wonderful! If you do nothing else today, I've learned enough.
But see, we can condemn our past. We can condemn our past. Maybe we were not in such a good person or living not the best lifestyle, or maybe we were like myself. I was born and raised in a particular religious line of thought. And I know people who hate where they come, especially, let's say, from a spiritual place, and they hate where they were at and they attack it. When actuality, that is part of my past, and I am here because of that. And so I had to learn not to hate that. And maybe again, you were in a certain stage in life that wasn't even a good thing. Maybe it seemed like a bad thing, but you got through it. You're through this side of it. And today, that was part of what made you who you are today. There were things you learned when you were there that you didn't know.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. I just thought what a wonderful, succinct thing to say or refer that quote to people when they spend so much time going back over that ugly past. You know, you do hear people, and we all are guilty of it, I think, sometimes doing that. But really, you should step over that and you know, quote what's said here. Only for that, you wouldn't perhaps be here today. I just think that's a wonderful.
But that doesn't, you know, and that doesn't give like permission to stay in that past, you know, to go back and just to gnaw it out. I mean, it's like Ezekiel 18, like verse 21 or so says, you know, when the wicked man repents of his ways and keeps his decrees and his and does justice and tzedakah and righteousness, he says, I will not remember your transgressions. So if he's not going to remember them, why should we?
Thank you, Terry.
You know, and that's all divine providence. Everything in your walk from this point forward, everything in your life, whether it's I got to pull over and get some gas or put air in my tire, or I'm going to stop and get a candy bar. Everything is divine providence. God is so detailed in our life. And we've not been taught how much, you know, there are religions out there believe that God made us and walked off and left us to our own devices. No, we are able to make our own decisions. We have the, you know, he's given us the free will to make choices. But just like what I heard a rabbi teach on here several years ago is once you make the choice, the free will's over. He says, like, let's say you were going to shoot someone. Let's pick the evil side of your choice. Let's say you're going to make an evil decision. We're going to see the good side here in just a second. And you take and you point a gun and you pull a trigger. You made the decision to pull the trigger. Once you've done that, free will is over. Where that bullet lands and what it does is up to the Creator. And that's the same thing with the good. You made a decision to do something good, like, we made a decision to sell our house, to move, to continue this journey. We got the realtor, put the for sale sign up, got the buyers in there. But it wasn't until we made the decision and we made the choice and actually pulled that trigger, the outcome of that led me here, not in Texas. See where that's going? Rabbi Weiner tells us a parable here to give us an example. It says a parable for this matter can be drawn from a person traveling in an airplane. If he knows that the pilot is seasoned and trained, he is at peace and trust and relies on the pilot to bring him to safety to the destination. This would not be the case with someone who suspects that the airplane had no pilot and that it was now moving through the air with no control. This person would soon become terrified at any movement that the plane would fall to the ground and he would instantly die. Likewise, a person who is trusting fully in God will be relaxed and serene since he knows that God is directing him and the rest of the world with infinite wisdom. See, this is why this is important. You can get away from this. I got away from this last year. This was my last year with some of the stuff that I prayed about for Rosh Hashanah this year, because I really had gotten away from contemplating the divine presence on a regular basis. I got tied up in things that was going on, not only in my life, but in my country, and things began to upset me and irritate me. And I lost sight that the Creator was the one in control. And I praise Hashem that we had this chapter of divine providence at Rosh Hashanah. Divine providence. Because it was like Hashem threw the reins out there and he was reining me back to where I used to be, that I gotten off track with this contemplation of divine providence in every day of my life. And not only that, the divine providence of my own nation. Because when I see some things that are going on, I'm a Southern boy, got Scottish, go study the Scots. They like the Scots I'm getting to know since I found out, they'll fight anybody, even themselves. And that's where our Southern heritage comes from, is the Scots and the Irish. And we don't take it lightly when someone comes in and sticks their nose in our business. And that's what's going on in our country a lot right now, and so we just kind of rile up, and I got myself all riled up over this. And then praise Hashem that at Rosh Hashanah, I read, when a person contemplates and perceives continuous divine providence. I'm like, I just feel him pulling me back. He let the reins out a little bit last year. I got myself in trouble. I learned some things, some really, really hard things. And I'm glad I learned them, because I learned an aspect of the Creator that I never knew. But I don't want to go down that path to see that part again. If you know what I'm saying. But a person who trusts fully in God, he will relax. If you find yourself uptight about what's going on in your life, what's going on in your country, what's going on in your neighborhood around you, and you're just uptight and it's just driving at you, it's because we have forgotten to take time to contemplate and to perceive the divine providence of God in that situation. Being a Southern boy at times in the past, there's been times, somebody cross you and you just say, God, if you just turn your head just for a moment, I'm going to take care of this situation. I mean, I'm kidding you. I've said that before when I was younger. I mean, anybody down here in the South, have good old boys that's had, some situations in their life. You always want God, turn your head where, you don't need to see what I'm about to do. But thankfully, as we get older, you get wiser. Then you learn that there's these reins that God has on you, the divine providence that keeps you straight. He says, in contrast, in the parable, for one who does not believe and trust in God, as long as the airplane appears to be traveling well, he is at peace. But at the moment it begins to make an unsettling movement, he begins to worry greatly about impending doom, and he will lose hope. The same applies to every individual as a person who thinks that he is the one who determines his way of life. In life, there will be peaceful only as long as matters are all in order in the way he thinks they should be, since he is putting his trust in his own cleverness and his own prowess. Although in truth, they can't be trusted upon at all. In contrast, a faithful person knows that whether or not things seem to be going well for him at the moment, all matters are directed by God. Therefore, he places his trust that he will provide for his every need, and that the end will be for his good and have a good purpose. With this trust and in this merit of his trust, he is peaceful and fully able to pass through every situation of distress and ordeal, whatever it may be. See, the underlying factors of what is being said here by Rabbi Weiner is a very, very deep-rooted understanding and knowledge of our Jewish brothers and sisters in Emunah and a Bittikkun. Emunah is translated in English as faith, but it does not mean faith as you understand it in English, because faith generally, especially in Western religious society, denotes a belief. But the Emunah has an element of belief, but it goes way beyond that. I want to teach on Emunah and Bittikkun sometime, and from understanding it from the Hebrew perspective, what it actually entails. Because Bittikkun, we keep reading here, Bittikkun is translated as trust. But trust is the outcome. Bittikkun is the outcome of Emunah. when your emuna is correct, then bitakun is the result. It's the trust that gives you the relaxing in times that are troublesome. This is the meaning of what the sages have said. Just as one who is obligated to bless God for that is good, he is obligated to bless God for what is bad. Everything comes from God, and everything is for a good end. So that's one of the things that Rabbi Nachman taught a lot about, is everything in life that happens to us, no matter what we perceive it to be, good or no good, it is for our best when we understand that the Creator who made us has placed it there for a reason. And when I was reading this, there's a passage that we're all familiar with from a particular character that we don't really know that well. His name is Job. In Job chapter 2 and in verse 10, in the second part of the passage, says, should we accept such good from God and not accept evil? And even the word evil is in the Hebrew. It's hara. It's hara. What is interesting is in the Hebrew, where it says such good. See, in English, we don't catch this stuff. It's when we go back to the Hebrew and understand what's being said, we start seeing things. And so where it says here, it says such good is the English that has been translated from the Hebrew, such good, which in Hebrew it is gam es hatov. Gam es hatov. This has been a problematic passage for many of the Torah scholars because of the word gam at the beginning. It's hard to make sense. It says here, the Torah scholars are troubled with the word gam, the first word of this passage, which translates as such good. Gam es hatov, such good, as it's translated. It says the word gam says, which does not readily fit the syntax. So, like me, it's been a while since I've been in English. I'm going on to my websites that I've got, my thesaurus websites and stuff, and I'm looking up the word syntax, which means it's a word that's in front of a word that makes the sentence say certain things. And it was giving examples, of English, how you change one word in front of the word, it changed the whole meaning of a sentence by just by putting the word here or here, the same words, but they're placing within the sentence. Because see, this word gam has multiple meanings depending on how it's used. It means like also, nevertheless, and it's one of these words, it depends on what follows after it, what it means. So they're saying here, this says, our rendering attempts to reflect Rashi, who's the great Jewish Torah teacher and Torah scholar, understanding Rashi's understanding attempts to understand, although the wording is not easily given in the English idiom. Something doesn't seem to work out right even in the English. So Rashi says that that gam is there. The gam, G-A-M, is how it's spelled in English words for the Hebrew. Gam is there to understand the underlining qualitative greatness of God's goodness. It's a word to try to help us understand when it says gam es hatov. In English, it just says such good, but there's a problem there because the word such really does not bring out the qualitative greatness of God's goodness. So that the refusal to submit to his providence when it imposes suffering becomes an even more heinous crime. So the Hebrew that was chosen here was to make that goodness be so qualitative that when, with divine providence, if you rejected the suffering and only accepted the good, it imposes that is such a major crime. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, sees that the word gam as dealing with the entire concept dealt with Job's statement. A willingness to accept God's favor coupled with a refusal to submit to his providence, when that expresses itself in harshness, constitutes a sin that is greater than the total denial of divine providence. And what's interesting, and I wanted to bring this up for quite a few that have come into our class, may not know some of the history of the book of Job. I wanted to bring this up because after we finish this through periods of time, I want to start from time to time. And I want to do a full book thing because it's pretty good size. But I want to go from time to time, starting with verse 1, and just do a study through the book of Job, if it's just a verse or two at a time, from time to time, and also teaching the history of Job from our Jewish brothers and sisters who's kept all this knowledge, that's known it for 3,400 years. In the commentary footnotes, when it talks about that one, that Job's, many of the Torah scholars and the sages, because of the way Job is written, there is a debate whether it's a parable or it's historical situation. And because there's evidences that does seem to lead it in both directions. Instead, when you know it from the Hebrew. What's interesting here is that it talks about one of the elements that's brought out by the Bavra Basra in 15b, teaches that the main thrust of what they call the prophecy of Job, and prophecy is not like what many people think of the word prophecy. It has a total different understanding once you understand the Hebrew scriptures of Job, and that of his friends, was directed at the Gentile nations. And the main portions of these prophecies it says in the main portions of the prophecies of the other prophets, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, was directed at Israel. But the main portion of the prophecy of Job and his friends is directed to the nations of the world. See, this is our book. It goes on, says, perhaps then we can conclude that the lessons of the book are indeed directed more to the nations than they are to Israel. Israel has the Torah and can learn the truths concerning God's providence from the teachings of the Torah. Not so the nations of the world. Psalms chapter 147, verse 19-20 there, where, it says that we were not given the Torah. The nations was not given the Torah. And that is stated in Psalms 147. It says they must find their way to God along the tortuous pathways and the byways, which Job eventually learned the truth. The Torah which Moses gave to Israel was the Torah which has been accepted and totally unquestioned subjugation to God's will. That's Israel. And a people to such a Torah may safely bypass is Job agonizing teaching. It says the nations, on the other hand, wanted to know what does the Torah contain and what does it demand of us. For them, the book of Job is indeed needed. It teaches that God can be found through the search of struggle, the divine providence. Now, here's reason why I'm saying, who chose to put the word gom, like in this first of this sentence, to talk about the qualitative aspect of God's goodness? It says, if this is indeed so, then we can understand even why. And many of the sages state that it is Moses that wrote this book. Moses wrote the book, and even if it is a parable, he chose to create the background and the identity of the protagonist in a non-Jewish, non-Torah context. It is in an ambience which is most suited to the nations of the world, and in whom it teaches and is mainly directed. And what's beautiful about this thing is we know that we are given the Torah that we are supposed to have, that came down from Adam and through all the way through Noah, the 7 commandments, which was actually given but reaffirmed at Mount Sinai, in which Moses reaffirmed it in the written Torah, in whom we now know that we accept these commandments upon ourselves because of the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai to Moses and Israel. But Moses also wrote this, many of the sages believe, and it says that Moses wrote this book for the nations, for us to study. We're observing our commandments that we are supposed to have to, because of the authority of Moses, but they all go back to, they do have their roots back in Adam and Noah. But we live a different lifestyle. We are not the priesthood. The priesthood is given a way of life to live and given commandments to live by, and certain things in the land to live by. When a Jew is in New York City, he's in the diaspora. He is in the exile. When Scotty is in Townsend, he's not in exile. And so this book is written for those of the nations and where God placed us and put us to be. And it teaches us how to search and to study and to find God and to live for God. Because I've gone back and I've started this going back and just started reading this. I'm like, okay, we need to start studying this book as the nations, because this helps us in our daily lives out here, living, where the rubber meets the road. And so we can see here that when I was studying this, and there's such a discussion among the sages about that first word of the sentence. And when you understand the Torah and how the Torah was placed and how God gave Moses the exact wordings of the Torah, and every word has its meaning. And so now you come upon another book that's written for the nations, and such 1 2-letter Hebrew word can bring troubles up, because, it seems to not make sense, and it doesn't make sense really in English. But yet it was put there, most likely by the man who dictated for God the Torah for Israel, and he chose these words, and they're there for a purpose for us to look at and to understand. Scotty, I got a few things here I want to finish up on, because I'm almost to the place I wanted to come to tonight. Then we'll get to any questions and comments. He says, everything that comes from God and everything is good for is for a good end, and yet it is to be expected that a person cannot always foresee or comprehend an ultimate good that will come from a trying situation. Sometimes it's just hard. Regarding the key internalization of the message, King David said in the Psalms, many are the pains of iniquitous person, but one who trusts in God will be surrounded by kindness. A faithful person who experiences pain or trouble will not contest and claim that God is treating him unfairly. For example, he can admit that he has committed iniquities throughout his life, and God in his kindness is now administering some pain that will bring atonement. See, there's another concept that's foreign to a lot of folks that like us that was raised in Western religious ideas. That pain, certain pains and certain troubles can bring atonement for his unrepented transgressions so that they will not block the greater blessings and rewards that God wishes to bestow upon his soul in the future. This is easy to understand from the analogy of an expert doctor who administers healing that comes only from the discomfort, which may be a minor injection or a significant operation that God declares, I am Hashem, your healer. The much greater depth behind this principle is explained further on in this book when we get into the sixth gate. Go ahead, Scotty. I know I kind of covered a little bit tonight, maybe a little too much again.
So let's go back to that question you said you would go to, if you'll flip over there and read. There's actually a couple different positions of it. Let's see if I can find it here.
Anuela's got it pulled down here for me.
Okay.
It's the person asks, it says, why do most B'nai Noach think they're Jewish or have a right to Jewish doctrine? In no way are Noahides Jewish or even recognized by the vast majority of the Orthodox rabbis. It is very confusing to people who are new on this B'nai Noach path. And yes, it brings a lot of confusion. As I've stated, we are not the priestly nation. When people, it's very easy. It's easy for all of us. And like myself, being raised in a particular denomination, and when it was gone, there was aspects of that denomination I missed. And then when I went on further in my path and later on went into the ministry, becoming an associate pastor, in a small Pentecostal church, which that was totally different from anything that I was raised in. I'd be honest with you. I fell in love with the worship because we didn't have that in the denomination I grew up in, not like that. I fell in love with it. It became a major aspect of my life. Many folks going to know what I'm going to say here. I mean, there's some hymns in that red book hymnal that can just get you going. Do I miss it sometimes? Yes, I do, because it was a part of my life. It's a part of my life. And so when the Creator guided my earlier steps in 2008 and 2009, that was my steps away from where I had been to where I was going. I had to leave a lot of stuff behind, and for years it was lonely. For years it was hard. And I kind of coined a phrase for myself. I had developed a worship void because there was a passage that was given to Israel that was on my mind. At the time, I didn't understand things, and I understand it better now than I did then. But the passage is God commanded Israel, do not worship me as the nations worship their gods, for all abominations have been done. So I stopped worshiping because every time I wanted to worship God, you know what come out? What I was used to. So there was this void that happened. And you know what? One of the first things I'd done is after I was going through that is I told my wife, I said, we need to go and we need to become Jewish. And what I found out, I was trading one for another. When I look back, I was trading one for the other because I was needing something to fill that void with. And that's why a lot of people who are on this path and are learning the laws, and they get Judaism and its Torah beautiness. When you get to it, and I'm not talking about from the religious aspect, I'm talking about when you understand the Torah and you understand the traditions that goes back thousands of years, and you begin to understand what the Creator was telling them as a people, what they must do, it is amazing. It is beautiful. And you want in on the game. You want tickets to the game because that's a game you want to be a part of. The hard part is coming to when, no, the guy at the gate says, no, this is not for you. And the thing about it is when he's saying this is not for you, it's hard to understand that what he does have for you is just as equally as good, but it's on your level. He told me I wasn't, in essence, I'm paraphrasing, in my looking back, I wasn't to be a part of that. I studied it. I mean, right now, I have my prayer shawl that a Jewish friend of mine got from Israel that has the tzitzis tied from Kfar Chabad in Israel. It's beautiful. I've had it on one time since I knew that the Creator didn't want me to go there because it's not part of my life. I keep it because it has sentimental values. It has very sentimental values because of the friend that got that for me was actually technically my first Torah teacher. I'd go to his house and I would sit and learn. And so he's technically my very first Torah who introduced me to the Torah. And it's so easy to want what they have. It's easy to want what your neighbor has if they've got a Corvette sitting over there and you've got a Kia sitting in your drive. It's easy. But see, the Creators gave that to them for a reason, but He gave you your Kia for a reason. And well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get me one of those, and you'll find that's gonna cause trouble because that wasn't what you're supposed to have. And so those that personally, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience here in what I see. There's such a hunger for the Creator that you're willing to take. And sometimes, and there are some things that is, quote, Jewish, that is, quote, permitted. And sometimes what's permitted is not always the best. Understand, we are called to be the righteous of the nations. That we are studying the 7 gates of righteous knowledge. Spiritual knowledge and faith for righteous Gentiles. Keeping anything Jewish, whether a holiday, whether a food diet, whether anything Jewish does not make you righteous. It's not part of your righteousness. So even though if something's permitted, why do I got so much stuff I got to learn on the righteous side of things. I need to be learning to do what God said Noah was righteous and moral. I need to be righteous and moral. He's my forefather. He's my patriarch. And I'm going to be honest with you, there are things out there that some of the B'nai Noach are doing has nothing to do with their righteousness. So my question is why are you wasting your time when you could be studying what makes you righteous? And I'm not saying that being right because some people, you're self-righteous. No, we don't call ourselves righteous. It's only the Creator does. We study it and we walk in the ways, just like Ezekiel 18 teaches. If you look at Ezekiel 18 about when the wicked man keeps righteousness and justice, when Abraham was, talking to God, if there are 50 righteous in Sodom, understand, before the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, even Abraham knew that there was a possibility of righteous people in Sodom. So what would have made them righteous? What would have made them righteous? The Torah wasn't given yet. So what was the righteousness? I've got a whole teaching that I've done on passing the righteous man of Abraham from Rabbi Hirsch. And we are to be doing what there should have been doing in Sodom. Because Abraham knew that there was a possibility. He started with 50. He was 50 right, because there were five cities, 10 people, 10 men. It's got to be at least 10 men who are righteous. What would have made these men righteous that would have stopped the hail of brimstone on that city and valley? It's the same righteousness that we can be doing that can stop the devastation of our nations that we know that is prophesied in the future of all the nations who gather against Israel that are survived, when thousands and millions of people are going to die on the face of the earth. And we see that according to the Torah scholars and sages, every evil decree that is given can be undone. All we have to do is repent. That's why we have the example of Jonah and Nineveh. That decree of them being destroyed was undone because God saw their deeds. They changed, they repented. And so I'm not one of those that advocate, non-Jewish people keeping Jewish things. Embrace your non-Jewish, because it's like God says, I've got something great for you. It's not this, but what I've got is equally as good on your level. So why am I chasing after something when I need to be chasing after his righteousness and doing that? Because going over here, and I'm sorry, keeping Sabbath, keeping Yom Kippur, keeping all of this, keeping kosher has nothing to do with righteousness. Has nothing to do with our righteousness. You can do it all day long and you won't be righteous. You can go to work with a bad attitude and mistalk to someone or raise your fist to somebody, and all of that, keeping that's of no avail because it had nothing to do. But if you go to work, or you go to, if you got that person you're angry with and you put your hands in your pocket and say, no, God doesn't want me to raise my hands to my brother because he carries the image of God, then you are more righteous than 100 Sabbaths, 100 Yom Kippurs. By just stopping getting angry with someone is better than doing things that's not considered your righteousness. I hope I explained that. Guys, y'all get me on my soapbox. I might have to apologize again next week.
But it's so good when you get on that soapbox.
It just, this last year, because of what I've learned from some of the stupid things that I did that I had to deal with God with this last year because of my stupidity, I've learned to embrace my non-Jewishness. And there is a prayer within the Jewish prayer book that is the most apt prayer for a non-Jew. And it's the prayer for a woman, because a woman is not commanded to observe a lot of the commandments that the men are. They don't have to go to shul. They don't have to pray certain times a day and weeks and stuff, all the things that the men are commanded. Not that they can't do that. It's just they're not required. And this prayer is, blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has made me according to your will. His will was for me to be a Tennessee boy who loves his sausage, biscuits, and gravy. That was his will. And so that's what I pray. I pray that I will be the best of his will that he made me. And I embrace that. And through the studies of Rabbi Hirsch on Genesis 18, on Abraham's righteous man, and also on it's another passage that just left my mind. But anyhow, it talks about the nations doing their part and Israel doing their part in completing the will of God on the earth. We've got to do our part. And our part is dealing with the nations of the earth, the settling of the nations. And so embrace who God made you. So, it's another thing, that God tells Israel. This is a principle. It says to serve him in joy. Don't be wishing that you had something else. There's people who say, well, the seven's not enough. Well, those people who say the seven's not enough has not studied the seven. I'll tell you that right now. I've been studying it now for over 15 years, and I'm nowhere near coming to a lifetime. I mean, like I said, it's enough. See, what is that? I know Bob knows this. I think it said at Passover, Diano, it's enough. Isn't that the correct word? Diano, it's enough. So, go ahead, Scotty.
So, okay. I want to tell a little story. Some of you probably already heard this little story. There was, this deals with the airplane you was talking about. there was a gentleman who boarded an airplane, and as soon as it got, the proper altitude, they begin to experience some terrible, what do they call that when the plane jumps?
Turbulence.
Turbulence. And it just so happened there was a little girl about 10 years old sitting next to him on this airplane, and she was just laughing and not worried at all. And he looked down at her and said, "Are you not worried this plane's going to go down?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Tell me, what kind of faith do you have? What is it that you have that you're not worried this plane's going to go down?" She said, "My daddy's the pilot." So I thought that was real cute.
And who's our daddy? Who's your daddy?
So okay.
That's a good one, Scotty.
All right. I heard somebody say that, but I don't remember who it was. So it's not an original.
Any other discussions or questions that's come up? Because I know we covered a lot tonight.
No, I think everything is great. I think you covered everything good, and a couple of the questions got answered, and so everything's great.
If you get anything out of tonight, because I covered so much, I just want to admonish, including myself, as much as you can, contemplate and perceive continually the divine providence that is around you.
Okay. Are we through?
I'm just
It
waiting
got
on you.
quiet.
I'm waiting for the engine room.
It got quiet. It got quiet. Okay. All right. Well, listen, as Terry said, if you got any questions, you can send them to us. And there are two great ways you can find out how to send them to us. First, go to outreachnoah.com. That's our Facebook page, outreachnoah.com. And there you'll find our email address, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. You can just send your email to outreachnoah@gmail.com.
And that email's on the bottom of the very first page.
Yes. So, and as always, we appreciate everybody who joined us tonight through our two Facebook pages, A Simple Walk and B'nai Noach Fellowship. And as always, those that joined us on Power Faith Radio. So, Terry, I'm working on that and telling everybody else as well. I'm working on a community radio, and I've about got everything to go up on it. So we're looking forward to getting that broadcasting. And so we thank everybody for coming and joining tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank everyone for their participation, and we will see you next week.
Next week.
Bye-bye.